How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Just, believe it or not, I just landed in the Milwaukee International Airport. So I just hopped in the van and I'm about a mile away.
Oh, cool. Mile away from the venue, huh? So let's get right to it and talk about your band, the Stick People, who feature within your ranks former Queensryche lead guitarist Mike Stone, Bernie Godwin on the other guitar, who scored the soundtrack for the latest Bruce Campbell movie, My Name is Bruce, bassist Billy Close of Clover, and drummer Frankie Anthony. How did you all end up meeting? I know that you're based out of Houston. How did you wind up working with a band based out of Hollywood, California?
Actually, we're based out of Hollywood, California. I was originally born in Houston, but I actually I've got a house in Colorado and an apartment in LA, and I kind of split my time between that. We kind of came together through our producer, Dino Godwin. We were working on a couple tracks. There really wasn't a band at that point in time, but and I had known Stoney from I believe he was still in Queensryche when I met him, and we had kind of kept in touch and started working with these other guys, and we just kind of came together. It really wasn't a plan. It just kind of happened.
Considering all the talent involved in the Stick People, would you say that this band is the main priority for everyone involved? Do some people feel like it's a side project? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, right now we all consider it our main gig. Obviously, we have different little side projects that we're working on. In fact, Mike Stone and I are working on a little project on our own. But this is our bread and butter. This is our main gig.
Cool. So tell me about how you guys decided on the name, the Stick People. What's the deal with that?
Everything else was taken. No, it's just, you can just kind of relate to it. We, just threw a bunch of names up on the wall, and that was the least offensive one. So we just ran with it.
So for people that might not have had the chance to hear you guys yet, how do you describe your sound to people? I've heard a lot of people tag you as modern hard rock meets punk-inspired glam. Do you feel that's a pretty apt description?
Yeah, that's pretty close. That sounds good. I think the person, I can't remember who said this, but they mentioned that the best was melodic punk rock.
Melodic punk rock? Cool. So going back a few years, in 2008, the Stick People inked a deal with EFM Records, who has distribution through Universal Music Group. I mean, that's huge. How did that all come about? That sounds like a pretty sweet deal.
We actually had quite a few offers from some different independents and even a couple majors. And this one just made the most sense for what we wanted to do, where we had, creative control over what the direction we wanted to go, but still, with that major distribution. So it just made a lot of sense, and we weighed our options, and that's where we went.
Let's talk about the recording process for the debut record. Was the material already in the can when you signed with EFM, or did they give you a budget to get things going?
Oh, man. That's a loaded question. That was, we had, I'd say about maybe half of the songs at the time, and we worked with our producer. We basically wrote, I believe, about 40 songs, and we kind of picked half of those to go in and record, and then I believe there's 13 or 14 that are actually on the record. It was a long, grueling process, and the recording process was pretty long and grueling, too, because we didn't quite have all the members in place. So it was a good year-long process.
And you mentioned that the other guitar player, Bernie, was that his brother Dino, or who produced the record?
No, that's actually our producer's son. That's how he got roped into the project, yes.
And he had a pretty nice studio and everything?
I'm sorry, what was that?
He had a pretty sweet studio and everything?
Oh, no, we recorded all the material, mostly in Hollywood, California, in Van Nuys. I think about 80% was done at the Green Room. We did some off of 4th Street, some in, what's that place? Sound Studio. And then some of the guitars were done up in Oregon.
Oh, in Oregon, nice. So tell me about, what were the most challenging aspects of transferring your musical vision into a recording? And looking back, do you have any personal favorite tracks off the debut?
Oh, I can't ever pick a favorite. I like them all. But some of the faster ones, like the single that's out right now, think about that. That's one of my favorites. just because of the lyrical style that went into that. But as far as getting this vision on down on CD, that was challenging at first because there were different ideas about how it should sound. So there was a lot of dealing with the engineers and the producers and getting that all kind of focused into where it needed to be. But I'd say after about the third song that we laid down, we pretty much had the sound nailed exactly how we wanted it, and the rest was gravy.
So you mentioned Think About That. I was just going to ask you about that. So the first single off the debut record, Think About That, was released on August 17th, yet the debut CD is just now being released. Why did it take so long to get the record out and on the shelves?
That's a question for Universal. I couldn't tell you. There's lots of things involved. It was put out there to kind of test the market, so where it was going to go, what the strategy was going to be, and we were doing some touring, and so we just wanted to get something out. So we begged and pleaded and got it out, and then we just had to wait patiently for this release date, which actually the actual record itself is being released on July 19th.
Oh, you got to be stoked.
So we actually do have an official release date. So it's been waiting for months for that.
So, Steven, considering the gap between the single and the full length, I'm just going to assume that you guys have been kicking around with some new ideas, some new tunes. How would you describe the new material from the Stick People? Is it around the same kind of musical direction as the debut?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the CD itself is pretty diverse. I mean, it's all along that same line, but there's different flavors. There's some hip hop beats in some of the songs. There's a couple really fast tunes on there, a couple slow ones. And it's funny you should ask about kicking around some tunes, because we went back in and we recorded 2 more tracks. Because initially the release was going to be 11 songs. So we actually went back in here the last couple months and put down 2 new tracks, one called Matter of Time and one called The Box, and those actually made the record. So they're very complimentary to what was already there. But they're fresh and new. As artists, we gotta constantly keep writing. In fact, we're already writing for the next CD. Believe it or not, this one's not even out, so it's an interesting process.
Yeah, so let's talk about writing. Let's talk about where you draw your inspirations from when you're writing lyrics for the Stick People. What comes to mind off the top of your head?
Just how screwed up life is, pretty much. It's anything and everything. Occurrences that have happened to any one of us that are in the band. Usually someone just pops up with a cool idea that would, this would be good subject matter for a tune, and just kind of go from there.
Do you ever just jot stuff down before you hear the music, or do you have to hear the tune first to get a feel for it, or how does that work?
It's done both ways. In fact, I have a recording studio in my house, and I literally sometimes wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning with a song in my head, and just go straight to the studio, and I don't stop till it's done. So I've got a demo recorded.
So you guys have already started playing out, doing some shows this spring. I know you guys have done some dates with Quiet Riot. I think you still got another one to play with those guys, some upcoming music festivals. How's the reception been for the band at these shows? Do people seem to be catching on to what you guys are doing?
Yeah, it's really interesting because we, for instance, like you mentioned, we've got some dates with Quiet Riot that we've done. Actually, we've got some this week as well, which is why I just got out of the airport here in Milwaukee. But Quiet Riot done with Vince Neil and some other shows. But then we've also played on our own and with some more punk type bands. And it's really interesting how the diverse genres are still pretty much getting it. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So it's a pretty diverse audience. You're bringing in punk rockers, you're bringing in hard rockers. That's cool.
That's exactly right. And it's a nice, pleasant surprise because I got to be honest. I mean, we were kind of wondering about how that was going to go over with, like a Quiet Riot type audience. But it's been great, and those guys are great too, by the way.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I know the drummer Frankie Benali is a cool guy.
Yeah, Frankie's an awesome dude.
So now we're talking about playing out. Are there plans to tour in support of the debut record? Anything lined up that you can disclose as far as what markets you might be hitting? Any supporting acts on the bill for a summer tour, anything like that?
nothing I can say right now. There's like I said, we've got, we're out right now. We've got some dates. We've got a date in Texas this weekend down in Houston, which is really interesting because that's where I was born. So, and I haven't been there in years. So it's really going to be cool to go back there and play downtown, and so that's going to be a lot of fun. We've got some stuff coming up here in July, which is going to be kind of in the Midwest. I think we've got a few dates released, but the rest of them are still kind of under wraps. And then, rumor has it that we're going to hit the West Coast in August. From San Diego to Seattle. That's kind of the idea, because that's when the record will be out in full force, so we got to get out and promote it.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
That should be a lot of fun. Maybe you guys will catch up with the Queensryche crew when you hit Seattle.
Nah, that'd be interesting.
So, Steven, tell me, who originally inspired you to become a rock singer? Was there a specific vocalist that sparked your interest in learning to sing, or did it just come natural to you?
Actually, I gotta be honest. My family is really into music, mainly gospel music. So, when I was 5 years old, I'm at the church piano playing rock solos as best I could on a piano, and I just kind of grew up around it. So I picked up playing guitar and piano and singing, and initially I was really into a lot of reggae. Somehow I kind of got steered into the rock world, and there's too many awesome singers out there to even begin a list.
You mentioned
being one of them. Speaking of Queensryche,
you mentioned your family's big into the gospel music. Do they dig what you're doing with the Stick People?
Oh yes, yeah, they're very supportive. Obviously it's not my dad's favorite music. But he supports it, and actually I'm going to have quite a bit of my family there at the Houston show, so that's going to be really interesting.
All right, cool.
I probably won't see them, but I'll know that they're out there somewhere.
I hope it's not outdoors, man. This is not the time of year to play outdoors in Texas.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that because, actually, I'm up here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now, and I think it's maybe 57 outside, maybe in the 60s, and I'm looking at the weather on my iPhone and looking at Houston, it's like 98, 2,000% humidity.
Oh yeah, got the heat index in there. So, what would you guys call your long-term goals as a band for the remainder of 2011? What else would you like to accomplish for the rest of this year?
So our main goals for this year is we want to, get our singles out. Obviously, we've got the one that we're going to relaunch, and then we've got 3 others, and I don't know if all 3 of those will hit, this year. Obviously, get the record out. We're going to be doing some touring to support that. We've got one video we shot. We'll probably shoot another, and just really help promote that record and go where they tell us to go and do what they tell us to do, and we'll see what happens.
Well, on that note, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to talk rock with me tonight, Steven. Before we wrap this up, do you have any last words for your fans listening at home?
I'll just get ready for 7/19, 2011. Record will be out.